that just weaves us all together. And as I look around the room, there's so many faces that are familiar to me, but I only know them because of you. When I moved to Alamogordo 15 years ago, and I told Pastor Robinson this story many times, I made it a point to join a local Rotary. I was a Rotary member in the city that I came from. And at my first meeting, my first Rotary meeting, I was sitting next to now Senator Ron Griggs. I watched and I heard a speaker, a man with so much energy and so much positivity. Now this was 15 years ago, and I still see that energy. But I heard him talk about the local United Way. Amen. I didn't know you were a pastor, but you talked about the local United Way. And after the meeting, I had to kind of fight the crowd to get to you. You were surrounded by a lot of people. I introduced myself, and I can say specifically that after I met you, Warren, that's when my community service began. You made me want to participate. You made me want to be part of this community. Warren Robinson made me want to join in, to get involved, to work to make our community a better place because of his energy and his commitment and his positivity, and it's so contagious. Later, I joined a little bit about me, I joined the Friends of the Alamogordo Library, the FOL. Of course, Warren was there. He was at the, remember the book sales we used to do at the old grocery store? Warren would show up and sweep. We had no water. We had no heat. We had no air conditioning. Warren would show up with a broom. We'd sweep the place. We'd dust the place. We'd clean the books. Then he would bring a giant coffee pot. And inevitably, he'd bring chocolate. Always chocolate. It made the volunteers happy, and it kept a cohesive group together. I loved being there. Later, when we were both part of the Alamogordo Public Library Foundation, we campaigned throughout this community. Warren doing door knocking, talking to businesses to try to get a bond passed to build a new library. Now, although the bond failed to pass, Pastor Robinson continued to initiate events, to show up at events at the library, and we, who are now the Friends of the Library, partnered with the NAACP multiple times to do Juneteenth celebrations at the library. Thinking out of the box, doing things that were a little bit different, but the Friends of the Library and the NAACP, my friends the Peelers are back there, we would do these wonderful Juneteenth events. When Warren Robinson was nominated by his fellow Rotarians to be recognized as a Paul Harris Fellow recipient, it was an honor, a real honor, for me to be asked to present the award to him. Do you remember that, Warren?
I do.
So many years have gone by, and I'm amazed. The presentation of the Paul Harris Fellow recognition is the Rotary Foundation's way of expressing its appreciation for a substantial contribution to its humanitarian and educational programs. It is named for Rotary's founder, who was a Chicago lawyer who started the organization with 3 business associates back in 1905. A quote from that evening: "He who tries to find the good in others will be rewarded, for others will surely find the good in him. Of all the earth's sad and lonesome creatures, the most helpless is he who loves not his fellow man." Wow. I think you may have said that one.
Sounds like me.
Now, later on, moving forward, as Michael Ray Shinneberry, a local author and radio personality, said in his book, Legendary Locals of Alamogordo, of which Pastor Robinson is one, not a day goes by when Warren Robinson does not teach, counsel, encourage, and comfort. Our paths have intersected again when he hosted a local radio show on the same radio station that I have the fortune to speak on Mondays, but Warren was on Wednesdays. He was on Wednesdays. I hope that at the time people were listening. I know they were, Warren. I was one of them. It was a wonderful program called The Good Stuff. Pastor Robinson would do readings and thoughtful diatribes, positive, upbeat ways to start the day, and there were so many times when I would tune in, just haphazardly tune in, and the readings seemed as though they were selected and presented for the day that I was about to embark upon. Amazing. We march together in the Martin Luther King marches. We serve on the 60-year-old Zia board together, and if there's a meeting or a gathering of people dedicated to serving our community, serving the needs of hunger and security, the need for behavioral health, for homelessness solutions, you can bet, you can absolutely bet that I would run into Warren Robinson. Pastor Robinson is motivated and he's relevant. Our chief of police, who I saw walk in earlier, Brian Pete, in his efforts to meet today's policing challenges and strengthen our relationship with the citizens they serve, partnered with Pastor Warren Robinson to implement an implicit bias training program, well received by the community. Amen. Thank you for doing that, Warren. I appreciate Pastor Warren Robinson. I believe that one of the greatest gifts I can give a person is telling him, acknowledging to him that I am thankful that he is in my life. So I thank you, Warren Robinson, for being in my life.
Amen.